Welcome to the Bar Down Hockey Show. My name is Josh Zaklis, and I'm here with the annoying Liesl and Ethan Schmidt. And we're here for some to give you some more hockey talk. We're going to be hitting up some ASU hockey to start with, some NCAA women's club team, and then we're going to get into the NHL. How are you guys doing this week?
How about... Pretty good. How about you, Josh? I care more about your feelings than I care about mine.
Wow. All right. That's a very nice thing to say, even though you said it sarcastically, Liesl.
All right, children. Let's settle down here.
Well, Josh got a new job. Josh got a new job, and this week Ethan covered a first ASU college football game. So everyone's thriving except me.
Yeah, well, Liesl, you thrive like constantly, like on a daily basis.
Oh, that's so nice of you.
And you... Yeah.
All right, thanks, Ethan. All right.
Good talk.
So, Ethan, even though you did cover ASU football this past week, you normally cover ASU hockey. So, how did they do this past week?
Well, the Sun Devils went to Colorado and took on number 19 Air Force, and they were unable to come away with the win. You know, getting swept on the road. Sun Devils are now 1-3. They go on the road again next week when they go to Nebraska, Omaha to take on their program. But the Sun Devils lost. They lost 4-3 to Air Force in the first game on Friday, and then Saturday they lost 3-2. So I mean, you know, one goal lost games. It's not the worst thing in the world for the program, but they definitely want to try to get back on their feet going to Omaha next weekend. And 1-3 is not horrible. You know, it's still a lot of hockey to be played. So we'll see how this team rebounds and gets back on their horse here.
Yeah, and I noticed in the two games. So in the first game, it looks like the Sun Devils, after two periods, they were down 4-1, and they almost came all the way back in the third period to tie it. They scored 2 goals in the third, and then in the second game they went
a big rally in the third.
And one of those goals was a power play goal.
Wow!
And so I think that's pretty successful for them on their power play.
Yeah, I mean that's always good to see when the power play is working. That's always a good sign for a hockey team.
Yeah, it is.
And then in the next game they lost again by 1 goal, but. They went to third period down by 1. They just couldn't tie it up. Did Coach Power say anything about that to you guys? About just finishing games, I guess?
Well, yeah, coaches talked about how if you could score 1 goal on the power play, you have a good chance to win. If you score multiple goals on the power play, you should win the game. You know, Lisa was talking about how Sun Devils got the goal. The power play goal in the first game from Jacob Wilson, and it started that comeback. But it's just going down 4-1. You know, you can't let them get on top of you like that and dominate throughout the game, especially early on. You know, Air Force 2 goals in the first, 2 goals in the second, and you just put yourself in a hole. And one of those goals was a power play goal from Air Force. So the Sun Devils still struggling taking bad penalties. And they want to keep getting better on special teams. You know, you obviously don't want to be in the box, and you want to be scoring. You want to be capitalizing when the other team's in the box, and that's kind of, you know, that wins and loses games in hockey.
I think too. You mentioned about falling behind really early, especially when you play teams who are ranked. You know, Air Force is only 19, but when you start getting into the top 10 or top 5 of the tier of NCAA hockey, you can't let up 4 goals in the first period and trail and expect to come back and tie the game, or even score another 2 goals to make it a one goal game. And I think that's the thing that they probably have to watch out for too moving forward when they play people like Penn State and Providence, who are successful teams and programs, and they will definitely rip you apart if you're willing to give them that quick opportunity to score a bunch of goals in the first period.
And
Well, in the second game, Air Force was able to get another power play goal from Eric Baskin, and so they're already down 1-0, but they actually responded a lot earlier in the second game, getting a goal just over 2 minutes later, and then scoring at the end of the first. So they're actually leading 2-1 at the end of the first, but Air Force was able to get 2 goals in the second period to overcome that deficit and win the game 3-2.
And Lisa, you're talking about how playing top 10 teams, it can be very detrimental when you give up 3-4 goals to that team. You just can't let up that many goals because you know they play good defense. And looking at ASU's schedule, it looks like they only play, I believe, 2 top 10 teams as they're ranked right now, Providence and Boston University. So lucky for ASU, they don't seem to be matched up against too many top 10 teams, but again, that can always change.
Mm-hmm. I agree. But it is good that they only lost both games by 1 goal. I think that is significant. It wasn't a blowout. It is an improvement, especially from last season where you saw a lot of those that they were
For their first road series.
Yeah,
too.
yeah. So
Absolutely, and they have a young team. But speaking of younger, I guess new teams, how's women's hockey doing, Liesl?
women's hockey is actually really successful right now. They have already surpassed the amount of wins that they had last season. They only had 2 wins last season out of the 17 games that they did play. But they've already won 3 games, which is pretty successful for this program. This past weekend, excuse me, they played Colorado State at home, and the first game was really interesting. ASU was pretty much leading the whole time, and then they turned around and they started playing down to the level that Colorado State was playing at, and that was the first time that ASU had actually played a team that had maybe, if not the same or less amount of players on the bench as them, so that was pretty shocking. And they were a lot slower team than ASU as well, but they turned around and they gave up some leads, and it cut down, went into overtime, and with 59 seconds left in overtime, ASU scored. And so you have to finish out those games, like we mentioned, against, in the NCAA team. You have to finish the games. You can't blow a lead if you have one, things like that. And then they turned around and won 2-1 on Saturday, and that was a scoring of the last, I believe, 11 seconds of the game. But it's really successful for them, and Jordan Nash-Bolden, ASU's goalie, is ranked number 1 right now in ACHA with her save goal percentage. So I think that's pretty.
She's got 945 save percentage, which is incredible.
It is, especially because after where they were last year, and now she's the only goalie this year. So it's fun to watch them play because it's different, it's new, and you get to see where this program builds only in its second year.
Absolutely, and I obviously haven't spoken to the ASU women's hockey team, so I don't cover them. But Liesl, have you noticed if their sole goalie, like if she's getting a little bit tired, like if the coach is giving her some breaks in practice and stuff, just to keep her fresh for the game? Since if she goes down, they don't have a goalie.
Yeah, she hasn't
with
really.
With the workload.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything, especially in practice. I think they try not to overload her. It looks like she's kind of, can do what she wants at whatever time, so she needs to take a break. She's more than welcome to kind of skate away, but it's nothing that looks too tiring yet. I mean, then again, we are only 6 games into the season, and they still have about 10 or 12 games left. But they don't play their next game until November 3rd, so they have a really big wait period. So that's positive in her sense.
Absolutely, yeah, because hockey's a tough sport to play, and goalie's possibly the toughest, most physically demanding position out of that. So, I mean, you'll see even with NHL teams, like they won't play their goalies on back-to-back games, or they'll give their starting goalie just a rest, just to give them a little bit of an extra breather. So,
they have a long break now. They're not playing for 3 weeks.
Yeah, so that should help her, absolutely.
Well, you mentioned goalies, Josh. Did anyone see who is out right now?
Oh, yeah. Marc Andre is on the IR for the Golden Knights.
Marc Andre is on the IR.
He has a concussion. I believe this is his 3rd or 4th. So that could be kind of weary for some people. I think that was kind of interesting. I mean, The
Did
Knights
you
are
see how
doing
he
really
got
well.
it?
No, I didn't. I didn't actually see it.
I know they brought up Malcolm Subban, PK's younger brother,
Yeah,
for their starting goaltender now.
and so we'll see where that goes. I mean, the Vegas Golden Knights are in second place in the Pacific right now, following underneath the Los Angeles Kings. But I think that's a pretty successful run for them so far, winning 4 games and only losing 1. So
That's impressive. I don't think any of us saw the Vegas Golden Knights coming out of the gate like that. If I had to say, through their first 5 games, I put them at 2 and I would have put them at 2 and 3, maybe even at 1 and 4. I saw them beating the Coyotes once, maybe twice, but I didn't see them beating too many of these other teams. But the Vegas Golden Knights came out and said, "Hey, like we're gonna compete. Like we're not gonna be a pushover team." And good for them. That's really awesome to see. That's how you build a fan base.
Definitely, and another team that's been really surprising out of the gate, besides the Golden Knights, is the New Jersey Devils. They have the same record at 4-1, and it's really impressive.
Yeah, New Jersey.
Being so bad last year.
Yeah, don't count out everything from New Jersey, guys. I know I'm from New Jersey, but don't count out everything from New Jersey.
don't count on Josh.
Yeah. Occasionally, New Jersey gives us some good stuff, and the Devils, their road games, those have been good stuff. 3-0-0 on the road. Wow, that's a way to start a season.
Yeah,
It
when
is.
you can win games on the road, then you don't have to you don't have so much pressure at home, and you just play your game.
And it's surprising too because they are number 1 in that Metro division. Columbus, Pittsburgh, and Washington are all trailing behind New Jersey, and I'm sure when everyone started the season, they wouldn't be expecting that. But the New York Islanders, Josh, you're really disappointing me.
You know what?
So far,
You know what?
after I made my predictions.
They've had an average start to the season, and I'm okay with that because what I've seen over the past few seasons in the NHL, teams that start out fast, they don't do super well in the playoffs. And the thing that killed the Islanders last year was having just a really bad start. Just a really bad start. They've had an average start. They're 2-3-1. They have 5 points. No, they're not in the playoff picture right now, but as long as they can hover right just outside the playoff picture.
The playoffs started tomorrow.
The playoffs started tomorrow. But no, I'm not super disappointed with what the Islanders have done. I would have liked them to maybe be 3-2-1 or 3-0-2 or something a little bit better. But what I'm really happy about is the 1-5 Rangers.
I knew you were going to say that.
That has made me happy. That's
I would
put a
think
smile on my
closer
face.
to 500 at least. I mean, it is early, but
That, you know what? That's okay. Because, like I've been saying, the Rangers suck. So.
I mean, it's really surprising because then again, we're only 7 games into the season. Too early to call, but Henrik Lundqvist kind of in a downward spiral if this is kind of the direction we're starting with in the season?
I don't know. Like I've been saying, the Rangers have been going all in for the past
if the
7
Rangers
years.
aren't very successful this year, they could use Lundqvist as a trade opportunity. Just like we were talking about before with Fleury being traded by the Penguins, but obviously, I mean, the Golden Knights had the expansion draft and got him that way.
But they can use him for trade bait, like you said, and try to get some better younger players that can help them.
And they definitely need some better younger players because the Rangers have been all in for the past 7 years, like since 2010, since Lundqvist started hitting his prime. That's when the Rangers have been all in. They've been trading. They traded for guys like Rick Nash. They've spent money to keep guys like Stefan on the team. And these guys eventually are going to start to decline. Eventually, the guy that you build your franchise around is going to start to decline. And I'm not saying that Henrik Lundqvist is done. He's, in my opinion, still one of the best goalies until proven otherwise in the NHL. But to start this season, it hasn't looked good for the New York Rangers, which, again, I'm happy about. Just to be perfectly clear.
Well, I look at the hometown team here, the Coyotes, the only NHL team to not have a regulation win. Well, I mean, just
a win.
A win, yeah.
Just a win.
The only team in the NHL not to have a win, and they have the worst goal differential at -11, and they're just getting shellacked out there. You know, last show we were talking about the home opener for the Vegas Knights when the Coyotes went and they got destroyed in that game.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter because it was a cool atmosphere for Vegas.
Absolutely.
But I mean, Arizona, 0-4-1, it's just pretty pitiful. I thought they could be a little bit better out of the gate, with Stepan and Ranta, but Ranta's been out a little bit too, hasn't he?
Yeah, he hasn't looked the best that the Coyotes were hoping for. Eden Hill, Coyotes rookie, will be making his first NHL start tonight again in Dallas for the Coyotes, and I think that's a big, I would say, issue for the Coyotes because they weren't expecting to bring up a rookie to play goal for the 6th, 7th game of the season, and that should be kind of put in life in a panic right now. You're right, Ethan. It's really disappointing to see that they are winless this whole season because I think that was something nobody was really expecting. So it's like, to me, some of the moves that the Coyotes have been doing so far have been really panicky. I think it's kind of scary because they're trying to get people out to the games, but when your team hasn't won a single game, it's like, how long do people continue to show up?
Absolutely, and just looking at his stats, he's faced 56 shots and allowed 5 goals. Ranta, that is, and I know we've talked about save percentage a lot. That's a 91% save percentage. But again, that's just not good enough for an NHL goalie. You really can't hover around 90%. You have to be at 92, 93%. And B, that's not good enough for a team like the Arizona Coyotes, who aren't going to score the goals, who aren't going to put up huge offensive numbers.
Well, Ethan mentions people local here in the Valley. You have the Coyotes, but you also have Austin Matthews, who is with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and he's been super successful this season. I think extremely impressive. He already has, in his 5 games played, he has 5 goals and 3 assists. So he's
a goal a game is really, really solid.
And he had that one winner in overtime, and he also won the game against Carey Price and the
Montreal Canadiens.
Montreal
Canadiens.
There's too many Canadian teams.
There you go.
Yeah. But I mean, that's 2 really big goals that he's had for himself. So I think that's pretty successful.
Absolutely, and he's led the Maple Leafs to a hot start. They're 4-1-0 to start the season. They're in second place in their division. Tampa Bay is 5-1-0. They've played 6 games, one more than the Maple Leafs. But again, you look to your stars to help lead the team. The Oilers look to McDavid. The Penguins look to Crosby. And now the Maple Leafs, it seems like, are going to be looking to Austin Matthews to help lead this team, to help lead the Maple Leafs past the first round of the playoffs where they got last year. Maybe even past the second one this year. Fans in Toronto seem to be excited, and why shouldn't they be? They have a good young team.
Well, did you guys hear Nikita Kucherov for the Tampa Bay Lightning's on a 7-game goal streak?
I did.
He's on a 7-game goal streak, and they played 6 games.
7-game goal streak tonight, actually. So against the New Jersey Devils.
So, well, that's going to be an interesting matchup. If you're after postseason baseball tonight, or even if you want to flip back and forth, if you're looking to flip back and forth, I want to flip back and forth between postseason baseball and something. Flip back and forth between the Tampa Bay Lightning and New Jersey Devils game, because that's going to be a good game. You got 2 first place teams right now who are both off to hot starts. Probably one of the most interesting early season matchups we're going to see.
I would agree, and you have Steven Stamkos, who is back finally after all of his health issues that he has had in the past few years. It's kind of been crappy for him, but now he's finally back. He's had 8 assists and 1 goal, so I think that's pretty significant, especially having those 8 assists, because he's obviously helping his line out and making that line successful.
Yeah.
Gosh, so awkward.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Liesl. Sorry.
It's
Ethan,
okay.
What about me?
do you have anything to say?
Do you have nothing to say?
Not today.
I mean, the NHL is pretty wide open. I mean, if we just want to sum up the NHL, like, I mean, it's pretty wide open. I mean, obviously, I don't think New Jersey's going to win the Metropolitan by any means, or, like, the Golden Knights can win the Pacific Division, but, I mean, it's kind of all over the place. Teams look pretty even of what I've seen. The only teams that are just evidently pretty bad again are the Coyotes, for the most part, but
I mean, even the Dallas Stars, Buffalo Sabres, just anyone who's kind of at the bottom. I'm actually surprised that Montreal is second to the bottom in the Atlantic Division. That's, to me, pretty surprising, especially when you have Carey Price.
yeah, I mean, I think a lot of teams can just be slow getting started. I mean, that could be the way it's going for the Rangers or the Canadians. But yeah, I mean, like Buffalo and Arizona, they're just bad teams, and it's already showing. But I know the Coyotes and Rick Tocchet want to get back on track. Tocchet actually said after their 6-2 loss to Boston that it was embarrassing, and he kind of apologized to the fans. So it would be good for them to kind of get back on track for sure.
Well, you know who is surprising, though, is the Chicago Blackhawks, who's the first in the Central, and they have a plus 12 goal differential.
They do have a plus.
That's the highest in the NHL right now.
Well, they did beat the Penguins 10-1.
Yeah, so that helps them out a little bit. But at the same time, we talked about it last 2 weeks and even the end of last season. Where are they falling? What's happening? Because they got swept, by the Nashville Predators in the first round of playoffs, and it was just kind of like, oh boy, are we going to have an issue? And right now they're not having too big of issues, but then again, it's the beginning of the season, so you don't know how things are going to pan out.
And also, looking at the Central Division, shout out to our friend Ryan Latica's Colorado Avalanche, 4-2 to start the season, second place in the Central. I mean, he said this year I'm going to be an Avalanche fan. I told him the Avalanche suck, but he doesn't really trust me right now because the Avalanche are starting out 4-2 ahead of the St. Louis Blues, ahead of the Predators. So it's a wild start to the NHL season right now. And I think once we hit November, the season's going to start to shape up. Yeah, maybe Vegas, New Jersey, Colorado. Maybe they're going to hang around in their respective divisions, stay around the top 4.
It would be cool to see New Jersey and Colorado hang around.
It would absolutely. It would.
Being so pitiful last year, I mean, it would be really cool to see how they improved so much in one season.
Absolutely, but I think we'll see the teams that belong in the playoff race start to get their legs under them, start to realize, okay, it's the regular season. We need to start playing around November. Nashville, I think, will pick up their play soon. Minnesota will soon. Edmonton should. San Jose, I don't know, but again, I think we're going to start to see those teams pick it up.
Are you going to pick it up?
Am I going to pick it up?
Yeah, are you going to get better once the season goes on?
Liesl, I feel like I get better every week. I feel like it's a constant process of improving and getting better and taking steps up.
Is the Island... Okay, my real question is, I'm really concerned about my prediction, is the fact that I gave the Islanders way too much hype, and now they're kind of letting me down, and I'm really kind of salty about it. So you need to talk to somebody, let them know that they need to change whatever they're doing, because I just want to be not yelled at for the end of the season that my prediction was extremely wrong.
So a couple of things. So I wish I had a direct pipeline to the Islanders, because then John Tavares would be signed right now. And the second thing is, I think the biggest thing that we can take away from the Islanders' start to the season is the fact that they haven't lost 10-1. So I think that's a huge start to the Yeah, it's a huge plus. That's a huge plus. But
I figured we could just close it out with some league leaders here. Nick Backstrom, cap, 11 points, 8 assists, 3 goals. And I just want to point out that the Capitals have they have 4 players on the top 10 offensive leaders list. And I mentioned Backstrom, then you add Kuznetsov. Ovechkin, who's got 9 goals, leads the league in goals with 9.
Quietly, Alexander Ovechkin leads the league in goals. Like, you're not hearing too much about. Well, you're hearing a fair amount of Alexander Ovechkin, but like it's the NHL isn't bombarding us with information about. Look at Alex Ovechkin. He almost has 10 goals. He's on pace for this. He's on pace for that.
I mean, I've seen some. He's on pace for 65 goals, and if he does, then he'll be up there with Gretzky for that kind of milestone. And also the 4th cap on the list is TJ Oshie. So, I mean, a lot of questions about the Capitals coming in, and I know Liesl is really questioning them, losing in the 2nd round again, and now they're starting off, and it seems like all their stars are contributing early. So
absolutely, and I think the big thing with the Capitals, and the thing that kind of sucks for us as hockey fans, is that we're not going to be able to see if everything that we questioned about the Capitals is still true until April, until May, until the playoffs start. Because again, they haven't had trouble in the regular season. Their issue hasn't been starting too slow or starting too fast. It's been, can they hang on to that momentum in the playoffs? And we're just not going to be able to see that, obviously, until the playoffs start.
Well, Evgeny Kuznetsov has 11 assists and no goals, and he is
making a lot of friends out there on the ice.
Tied for first in the NHL for points. Pretty interesting.
You know who was really surprising is, we talked about the Chicago Blackhawks, but Corey Crawford has the highest save percentage with .960, and then he has a goals against average of 1.39, and I think that's pretty high. You wouldn't think of him at the very top of your list when you were beginning this season at all.
Yeah, he's showing us that, hey, I still have it. Like I'm not losing it. Like I'm still here for the Blackhawks. Like we're still a force to be reckoned with. And he's showing us by leading the league in 2 major goaltending categories.
I think it's definitely going to change. But, I mean,
what
pisses me off about Corey Crawford is he has notoriously worn bigger equipment and worn it looser, so he makes himself bigger in net his whole career. And it drives me nuts.
Just drives you nuts?
Yeah.
Do you think any of that is due to the fact that you're a Predators fan?
No. It's not biased.
No,
he's
just like I was happy that the Rangers started 5-1.
He notoriously modifies his equipment to try to make himself bigger in net, and we can have a field day of jokes about making himself bigger, but
we can.
I do a show with 5-year-olds.
You do.
This is the big excitement, but no, I can see where you're coming from. I can see where the anger happens.
Embrace your anger.
It is.
Turn to the dark side, Ethan.
Having bigger pads and whatnot does cause some issues, and that can raise questions and whatnot. And that's a valid point, Ethan. So it should be interesting to see if he can keep that up.
And I guess we'll see. Maybe somebody's going to investigate that. Maybe there'll be an investigative piece, and maybe the author of that will be Ethan Schmidt in a few years when he gets his job as a beat reporter for the Nashville Predators. So we'll see. But until then, that's it for this week's edition of the Bar Down Hockey Show. To hear more hot takes about how much Ethan hates Corey Crawford, or about how happy I am that the Rangers are losing games, or about how Liesl has to deal with 5-year-olds on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Follow us each on Twitter. You can follow me at Josh Zaklis.
You can follow me at Liesl_Lee.
You can follow me at the Ethan Schmidt.
And this is Bar Down Hockey. Bar Down Hockey. Bar Down Hockey. Bar Down Hockey.